Hey guys, Sheila here. I'm a holistic nutritionist and intuitive eating counselor, but today I'm just a gal in the kitchen attempting a recipe for the first time. That recipe is to make a pumpkin pie from scratch. I will be turning this into a pie, and a gluten-free and vegan one no less. This could all go terribly wrong, but it's gonna be fine. I really believe in being creative in the kitchen, improvising as you go, and I thought a good challenge for me would be to try to turn a pumpkin into pie, because I love pumpkin pie, I eat it a lot, I've made it from a can, and it's been delicious. So surely I can make it from scratch, right? Well, we're gonna find out. So come along on a little adventure with me as we attempt to make a pie out of this. Now, I do not have a recipe for this pie myself, so I'll be relying on the trusty internet. The pumpkin pie puree is coming from .com, and the actual gluten-free vegan pie recipe is coming from Minimalist Baker. I love Minimalist Baker. If you haven't used Minimalist Baker before, go do it because Minimalist Baker is great. I just said Minimalist Baker a lot of times. Oops. Minimalist Baker. I will link to both recipes below this video. Now, first things first, we need to turn this pumpkin into something resembling what comes out of a can. The first step is to cut pumpkin in half and remove seeds. Cut it in half? Do not do this however I do this. Like, look this up or ask a chef or something, because I always struggle with cutting up squashes and stuff. You know, like, this could end so terribly. Try. Oh, there, see? Yeah, pointy end in. That's good rule of thumb. Oh. Oh, easier than I thought. Okay, so you want to get out all the seeds and all the little like goobers. I don't know what the professional term is for goobers. The little stringy stuff. That's as professional as we get. So we'll set this aside, and you can actually rinse off the seeds and toast them. I'll put a recipe link for that below. So now that we have the two halves, we're gonna place cut side down on a cookie sheet lined with lightly oiled aluminum foil. We're baking at 325 for 30 to 40 minutes. It's a long time, but we got other stuff to do, so it's fine. Okay, so now it is time to make the gluten-free pie crust. So it is 1 1/4 cups gluten-free flour. I use Bob's Red Mill's gluten-free blend. Ish. That's good enough. You know, with baking, you should probably never say that's good enough. Like, it's usually a pretty precise art, but whatever. Okay, 1 1/4, roughly, good enough. It says 6 tablespoons cold vegan butter or chilled coconut oil with varied results. Well, we have coconut oil, so we're going to be going for the varied results. This isn't like hella chilled. It's like medium chill. We'll find out. And then you also want to add a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Grinders are hard. Oh my god, there's salt everywhere. There. Close enough. Yeah, waste not, right? And now we slice or dollop the cold butter in and work gently with a fork or pastry cutter to cut it in. I've never really understood what a pastry cutter is, so we're gonna just use a fork. Don't overwork, just get it incorporated. Well, who likes to overwork? Am I right? So I don't know, that's like a crumbly texture. I assume that's what we're looking for here. We're gonna add ice cold water a little at a time. So I have the recommended 4 to 6 tablespoons of ice cold water in here. I mean, I don't know if it's ice cold, like there's no ice in it. It came out of the cold side of the faucet, so that's gotta be what we're going for, right? I mean, I think it's good. So like for reference, I think I used like half of it. Okay, and then I gotta taste test it because I just love dough. Yeah, I like it a lot. You know, I could just eat the dough. Maybe I don't even need pie. Who am I kidding? Of course I need pie. Okay, so once a loose dough is formed, transfer to a piece of plastic wrap. I think that looks like a loose dough. We'll find out. turning this into a disc that we're putting in plastic wrap. Got it? Okay, so it's in a disc and it's wrapped. Wrap firmly and refrigerate for a minimum 30 minutes up to 2 days. Well, we'll go the 30 minutes. So after 30 to 40 minutes, or when it's kind of soft, if you poke it with a fork, then it is done. Okay, so it's a little toasty. So then I'm gonna scoop it into the blender. Don't mind this being all gross and yellow. I just blend a lot of things with turmeric in them. Okay, so now I need to blend it. Ooh! So now it's like this super nice puree, like a little baby food. That's a weird thing to say. So now it's time to make the pie filling. It's 2 3/4 cups of pumpkin puree. Hopefully we have enough. Okay, so we only have like 2 1/3 cup pumpkin puree instead of 2 3/4. So we'll just lightly lower all the other ingredients and it'll probably be fine, right? Now we need a 1/4 cup maple syrup and a 1/4 cup brown sugar. So we'll add a little less than a 1/4 cup since we have less puree, but also because often I find things don't need to be quite as sweet as recipes make them. You know, like a little under a 1/4 cup I'm doing there. But if you're following the actual recipe, do the 1/4 cup or less if you don't want it as sweet. You know, just you do you, my friend. So, doing a little less under a 1/4 cup there. And then we need a 1/3 cup almond milk. I'm using cashew milk, but same. Then a tablespoon of, they said olive oil, but I'm using coconut oil. I'm sure it'll be fine. I feel like that's the theme of this episode. Just like believing things will be fine, and then maybe they won't be, but you know, we'll find out together. Learning. 2 1/2 tablespoons cornstarch or arrowroot. I'm using arrowroot. A 1/4 teaspoon salt. Back with this salt grinder again. Fighting to the death. It's like a 1/4 teaspoon. Close enough. And then 1 3/4 teaspoons pumpkin pie spice. You can sub for ginger, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. So like ultimately I need 1 3/4 teaspoons of the spices. I usually favor cinnamon and ginger for pumpkin pie spice, and then you just need like a little bit of nutmeg and a teeny bit of cloves. Don't overdo it on the cloves, they're powerful. I'm gonna do like a round teaspoon of cinnamon, around 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. So like cloves, a little goes a long way, and a little bit of nutmeg. And that is everything. Add them all in a blender and blend until smooth. All right, well, so we're back to our blender then. I should have just left everything in the blender. Ooh, living and learning. Gotta get it all, you know? Lid, yeah. So, got a lid, blending, okay. It's all in there. Should I taste test it? I should taste test it. Ooh, that's really good. I could just eat that like a pudding, but we're not, because we're making pie, okay? We're not animals, we're baking. So now, our dough is chilled. Okay guys, we are at the end of it now. Now it is time to turn this puck of gluten-free dough into, ooh, that's hard, into a crust. Unwrap the disc and place it between 2 sizable layers of wax paper. Okay, but this is like really hard. I can't roll this yet. I'm gonna oil this pan just because I don't know how non-stick this gluten-free dough is. I need another piece of wax paper and then we're gonna roll this up. I don't know guys, I think it needs to warm up. I'm just gonna cuddle it in my hands for a little bit. I gave it a little bit of time to like soften. She says not to worry if it cracks, which is great because it's cracking a lot. I think this is looking, it's actually pretty good. So the next instruction is to put this over it and invert it. And she says, don't overthink it, just do it. So, okay. I think that looks pretty good. looking pie crust, guys. So then, I need a spoon. So then we pour the pumpkin batter into the raw pie crust. Just like, I think you smooth it out into like the corners a little bit. That looks pretty good. Pour filling into pie crust and bake for 58 to 65 minutes in the oven, which is 350 degrees. I preheated it. We just gotta cook it for a while. Okay, so I set the timer for an hour and the pie is ready. So now we just have to go check on it. Oh my God, look at it. Ooh, it smells good. But here's the thing. So it says remove from oven and let cool completely before loosely covering and transferring to the refrigerator to fully set for 4 to 6 hours, preferably overnight. I have to wait for like a day to eat this? Oh, that hurts my heart. I just want it now. I guess this is where I leave you guys. It looks beautiful. It was not nearly as hard as I thought it would be. So, making a vegan, gluten-free pumpkin pie from scratch, highly recommend. Okay, so I waited patiently overnight, and now I have pie. 2 things. 1, I found that the crust stuck a little bit to my pie plate, so add some extra oil to the pan before you put the pie crust in there. 2, if you would like some delicious coconut whipped cream like what I have here, totally dairy free, it's literally, you just put a can of coconut milk in the fridge overnight, you let it chill, and then you scoop out like the hard stuff that separates, and you blend it with a little maple syrup, and you get coconut whipped cream. Now, the test. Guys, I'm so excited. Ooh, it's good. So the moral of this video is just have fun in the kitchen and try new things. I had never cooked a pumpkin in my life before this video, and everything turned out fine. And if I may say so, quite delicious. So try something new and chances are you're gonna end up with a really delicious recipe. That's all for today. If you like this video, please give it a like. It really supports my channel. And if you wanna be notified whenever I put out a new video, hit subscribe below. Have a good one. Why? So difficult. I thought the hard part was over. Man, there's like a stem. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense because there's